Welcome back to Snetterton, everybody. Our third and final instalment of the Ginetta Junior Championship is almost upon us. A big crowd waiting trackside to enjoy the spectacle. They've already put on two very entertaining races so far this weekend, both of which have been won by the Red Bull-backed junior driver Melvin Kaluzian. His first two victories in the championship to back up a few podium finishes that he'd had earlier in the season. But there are still a whole host of other drivers who are coming into their own in the second half of the season, who are desperate to try and add their name to the winners tally in 2026. We've had 7 different race winners over the course of the first 18 races, but still 7 races remaining and lots of opportunities for other drivers to get to the top step of the podium. The crowd are enjoying the weather and hopefully enjoying a great day of racing here at Snetterton. It's about the busiest I can remember this event being for quite a number of years. Of course, we're right in the middle of the school holidays here in the United Kingdom, so lots of families coming out to enjoy the entertainment, and it is lovely to see the support for these events. And I know that many people here trackside are going to be particularly looking forward to the Ginetta Juniors. This is a hugely popular championship, not only among young drivers. It always gets big grids and usually has a few more drivers who come along in the second half of the season, eyeing up a full campaign next year. But it's got a bit of a following amongst the motorsport community here in the UK. Lots of fans, I'm sure, have followed the Ginetta Junior Championship through the years and watched as some future greats of motor racing have come up through the Ginetta Junior ranks. Melvin Kaluzian hoping that he will be one of those we're talking about for years and years to come. He's got the Red Bull backing. He's now got a couple of race victories under his belt. Can he now do the hat-trick? That is something that we don't see all that often in Ginetta Juniors, really, given how competitive the racing often is. I think I'm right in saying it's only happened once so far this season, that being Lewis Goff, who won all 3 races at the season opener at Donington Park. He also then won 2 of the 3 races on the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit at the next event, took 1 win at Alton Park and another 2 at Zandvoort last time out. 8 victories for Lewis Goff, but this weekend has been anything but straightforward for the championship leader. He had a non-finish yesterday, battling 4th position earlier on today, and it's the result from that second race of the weekend earlier on this morning that sets the grid for this one. So we ride on board with car number 4 in position at number 4, but position at number 1 in the championship provisionally, and I use that word because there are some appeals, I believe, going on after race 1. Lewis Goff has a 101-point lead in the championship. Melvin Kaluzian is creeping into contention for a top 5 in the points. He's on pole alongside Croft winner Riley Cranham. Sebastian Luch, though, is after his first victory. He starts 3rd ahead of his R-Racing teammate Lewis Goff. In fact, the top 5 finishes in race 2 were all run out of the R-Racing stable, and that therefore is reflected on the grid. Max Murray 5th ahead of the first non-R-Racing driver, Performance One's Josh Watts, from 6th. Devon Hargeland is 7th on the grid. He starts alongside Harry Bartle, who is 3rd in the points coming into this race. Jesse Phillips is 4th in the points. He starts 9th on the grid ahead of Harrison Mackie, who is 2nd in the championship, but really now more focused, I think, on retaining that 2nd place than going after the championship leader. Noah Young and Addison Smith are together on row number 6. Daniel Oliver all the way down on the 7th row of the grid. That's a real shame for the Elite Motorsport driver. He's got his teammate Jacob Ashcroft for company there. Henry Cameron and Ethan Brass will share the 8th row of the 24-car grid, with Bailey Doughty and Vicky Farf as the Brazilian driver on row number 9. The top 20 completed by Louis Radcliffe and Oliver Vaux, 2 new drivers to the championship. Andrew Robinson has another newbie, Maxime Carruc, alongside. Maxime's had a couple of dramas this weekend. So too has Dominic Darling. He had an off in race 2, but his bonnet was already falling off before that point. He was starting from the back alongside Inisu Mafumalo, who is after a first finish of the weekend, having been involved in, had mechanical issues in race 2 and was involved in a multi-car incident in race 1, which was sort of triggered by this man, Lewis Goff, the championship leader, being tapped into a spin. That led eventually to his 2nd non-finish of the season. So Lewis is in a bit of a precarious position. Yes, he's 101 points clear at the top of the championship table, but he has used up his 2 drop scores now. Every driver has to drop their 2 lowest scores of the year. Lewis has now had 2 non-finishes, one yesterday and the other one coming in the first race at Croft at the G-Fest event. And so if he has another non-finish now, that will have to count towards his final point score. Although Harrison Mackie, who is 2nd in the championship, has also had 2 non-finishes, so it's not really a huge advantage there. I mentioned that the second place battle in the championship is perhaps more exciting now than the fight for the championship victory. Harrison Mackie, provisionally coming into this race, is on 364 points after drop scores are calculated. That's 11 more than Harry Bartle, who is 15 ahead of Jesse Phillips, who is 10 ahead of Jacob Ashcroft, who is just 4 now ahead of the charging Melvin Kaluzdian. So 2nd through to 6th in the points, covered by just 50 points, with 35 points available for a race win, plus a bonus point for the fastest lap. So it can all change in a heartbeat, especially as drivers start to run out of dropped scores on which to fall back on. The grid then forming ahead of our 3rd 20-minute race of the weekend. Melvin Kaluzdian on pole, Riley Cranham alongside. Sebastian Louche is next ahead of Lewis Goff and Max Murray, completing that quintet of our racing cars at the front of the field. They rather controlled race 2, our racing. Will they face stiffer opposition in race 3? It's time to find out. The red lights go out now. We're away in racing for the final time in the Ginetta Junior Championship this weekend. A poor start for Riley Cranham, and that will allow, I think, Sebastian Louche through into 2nd position. It's going to be Kaluzdian, as has been the case in the previous 2 races, who holds the lead from pole position into riches. Louche will go 2nd. Our racing continue, though, to hold those top 5 positions, with the 26 car of Jesse Phillips keen to get up there and join his teammates, one of whom was wide. That was Goff, I think. Lewis Goff wide onto the grass. There's a big dive from Daniel Oliver back in the pack. He made a big dive against Melvin Kaluzdian there in race 1 that led to a spin. Hopefully no repeat of that in race 3. Down towards Palmer's, looking back, Lewis Goff on the left, on the right, Sebastian Louche, and that was on board with the 18 car of Riley Cranham, who is back up into 2nd position, having fought his way through down at Wilson Hairpin. Back on board with Goff, looking to the inside, partly to attack his teammate Sebastian Louche, also trying to defend from his other teammate Max Murray behind. In the end, though, the car with the purple highlights moves through into 3rd position. Lewis Goff, who hasn't won a race since the 3rd race at Zandvoort last time out. This is about the longest winless streak he's had. It's only been 3 races, but he's been so dominant this season. He'd love to get back to winning ways here this afternoon. Vicky Farfus there on the outside, getting a little bit attacked by Bailey Doughty in the number 9 MK prepared car. In fact, they're 3 abreast, look, because Louis Radcliffe almost committed to the inside line, but decided better off that and instead follows those 2 through Williams out onto the Bentley straight. He'll pick up a double slipstream now as Vicky and Bailey sort of delay each other by side drafting each other down the straight. Interestingly, Robinson goes with Doughty rather than trying to pull out past the pair of them. Gives the assistance to the number 9 car, and I think that will allow Bailey to take the place. Brundle and Nelson, often a pinch point on the opening lap. Clean so far. Doughty does get ahead of Vicky Farfus, and can now Louis Radcliffe follow suit? Find out in a moment. Kaluzdian, though, has gone at the front of the field. A big gap already. About the biggest lead anyone's had in our Ginetta Junior races this weekend. And by anyone, I mean Melvin Kaluzdian, who's led every lap of the Ginetta Junior races here at Snetterton so far. Down through Murray's along the centre straight, lap 1 in the books, and look at that lead. That's probably over a second, which by the end of 1 lap of racing is pretty impressive stuff. What does the timing screen say? 1.1, yes, with the next train of cars absolutely nose to tail. Cranham, Goff, Louche and Murray 2nd to 5th, with Devon Hargland 6th. Up 1 spot from where he started. There is Jacob Ashcroft coming up the inside of Noah Young, tagging along with his Elite Motorsport team, Harrison Mackie, as Josh Watts has a go here at Devon Hargland for 6th. Josh Watts back to the 6th position from where he started. And Josh Watts, the Alton Park race winner, possibly should have won the 2nd race at Alton as well. He was in position to do so because the leader had a time penalty, but he spun at the last corner and dropped right down the order. Hasn't really had an opportunity to fight for a win since, so Josh will be really wanting to try and move his way through that R Racing pack ahead of him. He is in 6th position then as they arrive at Agostini for the 2nd time. Harry Bartle battling with Jesse Phillips. That's the battle for 3rd in the championship as well. 15 points between them in Bartle's favour. Harry Bartle, through the early part of the season, looked like he was going to be Lewis Goff's big championship rival. He was 2nd in the first 2 races of the season at Donington Park, had another 2nd at Silverstone before claiming his first of 2 wins in the middle of the 3 races on the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, but his championship form has sort of faded through the summer months. It's been a very busy summer for the juniors. Alton Park, Croft, Zandvoort and now Snetterton all coming at them pretty quickly. And if you start to lose your momentum in such a busy period of the season, that can have disastrous effects. And so Bartle slipping now 112 points off the championship leader. The floppy markers attacked viciously as the pack descends upon Brundle and Nelson for the second time. They were both in position at the start of the lap. I think they've both gone now by the time the field comes through for the second time. Wide there goes the number 11 of Henry Cameron. Defending, I think he was, from Ethan Brass, the MK racing car, number 21, trying to find a way through. As here, Lewis Goff tries to get second away from Riley Cranham. This is, I would say, the most competitive Lewis has looked all weekend long. He apparently went really well in testing on Friday, but then lost his groove a little bit in qualifying. That put him in the danger zone then for race one, as we saw. But now he looks like the Lewis Goff of old. He's challenging for second, and I think he feels that he's quicker than Riley. He's working with him for now, but I reckon if he can get through, he will feel that he can chase down the race leader, Melvin Clusian, who is 1.3 seconds to the good now. Right on board with Cranham, looking back at Lewis Goff. Is there a move to be made into the Wilson hairpin? He's close enough if he wants to go for it. Elects not to. Smoothly down through the gears on the sequential gearbox, tucks into the right-hand hairpin at Wilson, and back up through the gears again towards turn 3 at Palmer's. Still this R-Racing lockout of the top 5 positions, with Josh Watson, Devon Hargeland next in line. Jesse Phillips makes it 6 R-Racing cars in the top 8, with Harry Bartle and Daniel Oliver completing the top 10 at the end of that second lap. So an intriguing situation here. Lewis Goff, no doubt playing the percentages here, thinking about the championship. He doesn't need to win probably any more races this season. He could just finish on the podium every time and be guaranteed the championship. But he is a racer. He's proven that he's got excellent racecraft this season. And if he thinks he can go and win a race, I think he would be tempted to go for the move here. But interesting that he chose not to into the Wilson hairpin that time. Cranham did not defend. They are not catching Clusian, so if Goff wants to win, he's going to have to get past his teammate here, I think. Maybe the Bentley Straight will offer an opportunity. Careful of that yellow sensor. I think Josh Watts might have just caught it there, the track limit sensor on the exit of the turn. On board with Goff, up through the gears. In the slipstream, you can see the slipstream starting to take effect, bringing him closer to the rear bumper of Riley Cranham's car. Feints to the inside, does Lewis, but again, did not commit to a move, didn't try to force a defensive move out of Cranham, because, of course, he doesn't want Cranham to delay them and lose them even more time to the race leader. But they're losing time as it is. Another 10th in the middle sector. Oh, out wide has gone somebody. Was that Clusian, maybe, who just dipped a wheel into the dirt? Could have been Cranham, actually, because he's under all sorts of pressure now through Coram. In fact, being given a shove there from his teammate through the long right-hander. They're really queuing up behind, though, and yes, Cranham sideways again with dirt on his tyres, maybe. This forces Lewis Goff's hand. He has to go to the outside. Where does Sebastian Lusch, his teammate, go to the inside of both of them? 3 abreast for second position, and the championship leaders on the outside line. Now, this will be giving him flashbacks to yesterday, where it all unravelled at Rich's corner. I think he backed out of that there. That was sensible stuff from Lewis Goff. He wanted no part of that and decides to settle in behind his teammate. So, Lusch to second, Cranham to third, and Lewis Goff drops down to fourth. Cranham, though, wants second place back again. There's a bit of leaning, a big squeeze by Sebastian there to get to the inside line, and this is exactly the battling that Lewis Goff was trying to avoid by not really going on the attack against his teammates. And now they've got no choice, because Josh Watson and Devon Hargeland are right there with them, along with another of their R-Racing teammates, Jesse Phillips, in 8th. This is playing beautifully, of course, into the hands of Melvin Clusian, who at the start of the lap was 2.2 seconds clear. I reckon he's extended that margin in Sector 1. Yes, 2.5 seconds now. Jesse Phillips there pulls out of line, nips up the inside of Devon Hargeland. That was textbook, wasn't it? Devon did not defend. Left a very inviting gap up the inside, which Jesse was more than happy to fill. Could we get a top 6 lockout for R-Racing? That would be remarkable. I'm not convinced that's ever happened before. Sure, Simon Pace will be texting me furiously if he knows otherwise, but very rare in this series to have such domination from one team. It is their home track, of course, R-Racing, based just outside the Snetterton facility. They do know the place well. They'll have done a lot of winter testing here, I'm sure, with their drivers. But this is still very impressive to have such domination over the rest of the field. Jesse Phillips just one overtake away now from locking out the top 6 positions for the team. Down through Brundle and Nelson we go. So now that we've got Sebastian Lusch into second position, is he able maybe to chase down Melvin Kloosdien? Well, in the middle sector, yes, by just less than a tenth. Don't get too excited, but he was a little bit quicker than the leader. It's the first time, really, that that's happened so far in this race. So if he and Cranham can work together, maybe they could catch the Red Bull Junior driver ahead. That's not really the way to do it, though. Sebastian, he's all out of shape into Murray's, drifts out wide, doesn't lose the position, but definitely loses momentum. And Riley Cranham now has a choice to make. Does he sit behind and maybe give a bit of a bump draft to the 36 car? Or does he go to the outside line? I think there's your answer. He stays in the wheel tracks of Sebastian Lusch. The same situation behind between Goff and Max Murray, who was pinged out of a top 5 finish right at the end of yesterday's race by Jacob Ashcroft, who got it all wrong down into Agostini, an incident for which he was later disqualified, Jacob. And that's why he started race 2 from the very back of the field. Round the Wilson hairpin. Lead gap 2.7 seconds as Harry Bartle goes grass tracking. That was Daniel Oliver nipping up the inside of him. This for a 9th position. Bartle, though, now has the inside for Palmer's. Skates back through. You can see him soaring away at the wheel there inside the number 73 car. He manages to pop back out the other side, still in front of the elite machine. Down into Agostini. Josh Watts defends 6th position, and then continues to defend on the way out of the corner. Off, I'm afraid, has gone Louis Radcliffe. That's at the Wilson hairpin. Louis had fallen to 23rd anyway, which was a bit further down than we'd last seen him. So I wonder whether he's been having some issues with that car, or it's just been a bit luckless in some of the wheel-to-wheel battling. He was up there battling with Ethan Brass and Vicky Farfus at the start of the race, so lost half a dozen or so positions even before that spin. Back out onto the Bentley straight, another opportunity maybe to get in the slipstream and try to force an overtake down into the braking zone at the end of the straight under the circuit access bridge at Brundle. Kloosdien continuing to march ahead. He was 2/10 slower though than the second place man in sector 1, gained a 10th of that back in sector 2, so negligible gains being made by this second place pack. Josh Watts there goes into the dirt slightly out of Nelson as well, and that brings more dust onto the road, which further limits the grip levels out there. Most drivers that I've spoken to this weekend have said they're all struggling with track conditions. It's so dusty because we've had so little rain over the last few months. So off track, what is already quite a sandy kind of consistency to the soil, it just blows onto the road, and if people start running onto the grass, they bring that dirt onto the track, and you only have to get half a foot out of the tram lines almost that are on the racing line, and you have little to no grip. That really has been causing drivers issues. Now, speaking of issues, I don't want to alarm anyone, but did Melvin Kloosdien have a bit of front bodywork that was peeling loose there? The bonnet, for me, on the left-hand side of the leading car seemed to be slightly raised. It could have been a trick of the light. We'll get to that in a moment, meanwhile, because Lewis Goff has just moved to 3rd, ahead of Riley Cranham, who we were on board with for that pass. And we've also got something going on behind. Jesse Phillips has got ahead of Josh Watts, and Josh is now trying to fend off Devon Hargeland. Hargeland can't go around the outside on the way into Palmer's, but might try and execute a switchback and force a move down at Agostini. These three losing touch with the cars ahead, so Jesse Phillips was keen to get on with that, and he does now make it a top 6 lockout for our racing. Lewis Goff, meanwhile, defending his newly acquired 3rd position. Slithers out a bit wide. This is Cranham's opportunity, so they're not working together anymore, are they? This is an all-out battle now between the R-Racing drivers, as we saw on the final lap of race 2. Cranham nips back through then at Hamilton. Now Max Murray joins in. This is all good fun, and don't get me wrong, I'm grateful that they're battling, but I'm sure Lewis Goff would much rather they just stayed in line. He doesn't really care where he finishes in this group, as long as he finishes. He cannot afford contact, and even more of an issue if that contact comes from a teammate, especially when they're locking out the top 6 positions. Watts now 7th position. Lewis Goff waving at, I think, Riley Cranham in front of him. Could have been Max Murray behind to say, let's just calm down. We've still got 6 minutes and 20 seconds to go. We don't need to be knocking lumps out of each other at the moment. He, of course, really doesn't need to be getting involved in any of that silliness. Down through the bomb hole, up towards Coram, way wide goes Cranham, and this is forcing Lewis into it because the cars ahead of him are struggling to keep it on the island, and so he kind of has to go for it. His car looks the best balanced of this bunch, but he's not wanting to take the risks. Again, a huge armful of opposite lock there for Cranham into Murray's, and Goff will have so much more speed off the turn, but chooses not to do anything with it. Peaks to the outside, but he's just going to lay the bumper to Cranham past the pits. We continue line astern into Riches. Ethan Brass is stationary. That's at the final turn. Is that car damaged? Has it stalled? It wasn't moving anywhere imminently, it seemed. And if it stays there, that will definitely require a safety car. Car 44, Maxime Carrick, is shown as stationary at Coram. I think Brass has carried on, but Carrick's car on the circuit map perhaps hasn't. We'll get to that in a moment. Josh Watts, meanwhile, still scrapping with Devon Hargeland for 7th. As it all just spreads out a little bit in this leading group. This looks rather more exciting, doesn't it? Henry Cameron leaning on Noah Young. Bailey Doughty behind, and this group being led by Jacob Ashcroft. He's had 6 podiums this year, but only the 1 race victory for the Elite Motorsport driver. That coming at the first race of the Ginetta Festival at Croft earlier in the summer. He is currently 10th. He got ahead of... No, sorry, he's 11th, excuse me. 4 seconds behind 10th place Daniel Oliver. You can see Daniel off in the distance. I think any cars that were involved in incidents at Murray's last time by have continued, so no need for a race stoppage or safety car intervention. Henry Cameron jinks across to defend there in the background from Bailey Doughty. 15th position there, debating. As they accelerate now through Williams once again. This, the 7th lap of the race. Interestingly, the fastest lap has been set by Sebastian Lucian. On the last lap, he was 8 tenths quicker than the... 2 tenths slower than the leader, misreading the timing screen. But he has set the fastest lap, so that steals a point away from Melvin Clousdian. The gap is 2.8 seconds, or it was at the start of the lap. There's confirmation of that lap time for Sebastian, who I think I'm right in saying is yet to have a podium this... got a 3rd place finish, this morning, obviously. That was his first podium finish of the year. Could be on for a season best finish, though, with 2nd in this one. If he can keep Riley Cranham at bay. Cranham a Croft winner. 4 times podium finisher this season. But I don't think he's going to be feeling that generous. I don't think he'll donate this 2nd place to his teammate. He's going to try and take it off him over these final couple of laps of racing. Back across the line we go. Lead gap down by a 10th for what it's worth. These two are definitely working together, Lucian Cranham, but it's just not quite yielding the significant gains that they need. And with time running out, they're probably going to stop cooperating pretty soon. Oh, my word, big lunge there from Max Murray. 4th position away from Lewis Goff. Lewis, I didn't think was going to stand his ground, but he is still there, and he's got the inside line into Palmer's, so Lewis Goff is not going to just roll over and fall down the order willingly. Holds on to 4th for now, but I think Murray's going to have a much better exit from Palmer's. That will give him the run into Agostini, potentially. And maybe the move can be made at the bottom of the hill. It's quite a steep drop, actually, down into the braking zone at Agostini, but no, not close enough, or didn't feel it was a risk worth taking that time, did Max. Black and white warning flag, car 64. For exceeding track limits. That is Ollie Vaux, the newcomer, coming towards the completion of his first weekend in the Ginetta Junior Championship, down in 19th. That's just a warning for now. I have to say, I've been pleasantly surprised. We haven't had a huge amount of track limits issues this weekend, which sometimes we have, both here at Snetterton and at other venues this year. Penalties often incoming, which have affected the result. Not been the case this weekend, so really good driving standards for the Ginetta Junior grid. I know they had their issues yesterday, but track limits wise, they've learnt their lessons from earlier in the season. Lead gap down by about 3 tenths this time, but it's still over 2 seconds, so I don't think Lucian Cranham are going to catch Clousdian. And that tells me that on the final lap, Riley Cranham's probably going to have a more concerted go at getting past the 36 car, realising that they're not going to catch Devon, who you can just see a little Red Bull coloured speck in the distance. Lush again with that wider line through Coram. He seems to like that line, but if he drifts too wide, he gets onto the dirty side of the road and loses a bit of grip through Murray's turn. They were pretty even that time as they come across the timing line to end the 8th lap of the race and begin the 9th and final one. P1. Focus is the message to Melvin Kaluzdian. He's definitely got a slightly loose bonnet. It is just peeling up slightly in front of the driver's side of the windscreen, but it doesn't really matter. It's not slowing him down, and the two cars behind him are now slowing each other down as Sebastian Lush defends the inside line into Riches. Riley Cranham to the outside, and there's no way he's going to be given the inside line into the Wilson hairpin. Now, that little defensive move from the second place man might just start to allow Lewis Goff and Max Murray to close in. This is exactly what happened in race 2, except on that occasion it was Kaluzdian defending the lead that bunched all of the R Racing cars together. Cranham peeks to the inside at Palmer's. That distracted Lush slightly. He just missed the apex by half a car's width, and that means again that Cranham's got the run down the hill. Lush defends the inside. There's no way he's moving from that white line, so Cranham sends it to the outside instead, tries to stop the car in time to go for the switchback, which he can't quite do. Sebastian again managing to get across to the second apex and block that path, and he remains in second position. But they are all together again. Look, Goff and Murray have now caught as they drop down into Oggies for the final time. 4 R Racing cars together. Josh Watts, meanwhile, is closing back in on Jesse Phillips in the background in an attempt to break up this top 6 lockout for R Racing. Have had it confirmed, by the way, by Simon Pace that their 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 was the first time that had ever been done in Ginetta Juniors. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is definitely something we've never seen before. We could be less than half a lap away from seeing just that for R Racing. Kaluzdian looks set to be the second driver this year to do the hat-trick, following in the footsteps of his championship-leading teammate Lewis Goff, who is desperately trying to get back onto the podium in this race. Through the right-hander at Nelson. The short shoot now towards the bomb hole. They're running out of overtaking opportunities. Murray's corner is an overtaking opportunity if you're feeling brave, but there's always the risk of contact, and given the fact they're all teammates, as we've well documented, you'd like to think they won't take any big risks. Let's see what happens. Melvin Kaluzdian already turning through the final corner on his way towards the checkered flag. We'll find out in a moment if anything kicks off behind. Melvin Kaluzdian then, the 11th driver in championship history, I'm told, to win all 3 races in a weekend. And it's his 3rd victory of the season as well. Kaluzdian dominates at Snetterton. Sebastian Lush comes home in 2nd. Riley Cranham 3rd, with Lewis Goff, the championship leader, in 4th. 5th for Murray, and it was 6th for Jesse Phillips by 3/100ths of a second ahead of Josh Watts. So Josh Watts very nearly spoiled the party there for R Racing, but just about Jesse Phillips was able to hang on for a historic top 6 lockout for the local team. Yes, they've got some sort of home advantage, maybe, but I don't think that makes a huge amount of difference in a series like this. They've just got top quality drivers, well-engineered cars, several of which needed repairs overnight after their various incidents yesterday, so the team will be doubly satisfied that their Sunday has gone pretty much as well as it could. Replay here, meanwhile, of some last lap shenanigans. The 64 car of Ollie Vaux spinning down at Brundle. He'd already been warned about exceeding track limits, but here his battle with Andrew Robinson, unfortunately, ends with the Pace Performance car arriving backwards into the complex. He was able to continue and eventually finished in 22nd place in a race that had 0 retirements as well, so that's much more like it. 24 started, 24 finished, and they were led home by 6 R Racing cars. And at the front of that field, Melvin Kaluzdian, who claims his 3rd victory of the weekend. Utter dominance from the R Racing squad. They lock out the top 6 positions. Melvin Kaluzdian, Sebastian Lush and Riley Cranham are on the podium, ahead of their teammates Lewis Goff, Max Murray and Jesse Phillips. Josh Watts nearly spoiled the party. He had to settle for 7th, ahead of Devon Hargeland, Daniel Oliver and Harry Bartle. Then it was Jacob Ashcroft. A bit of an anonymous weekend for him, really, after that crash yesterday. Addison Smith, who tangled with him in that first race, was 12th, ahead of Harrison Mackie, Bailey Doughty and Henry Cameron. Dominic Darling, Noah Young, Vicky Farfus, Andrew Robinson and Ethan Brass complete the top 20. Maxime Carruck, Oliver Vaux, Anissa Mafumalo and Louis Radcliffe completing the 24 finishers. All 24 starters this time made it to the checkered flag after what was an intriguing race, but a race that ultimately was dominated by the local team, R Racing. Race 3 at Snetterton for the Ginetta Junior Championship saw a whole bunch of our racing cars start at the front of the field, having locked out the top 5 finishing positions in Race 1. They looked set to do the same, with Jesse Phillips hoping to get up there and join them at the front of the field. It was an energetic run through the first corner. The championship leader, Lewis Goff, was out in the weeds coming out of bridges, but just got back in line and settled in around his teammate. Sebastian Lusch there was overtaken at the Wilson hairpin on the opening lap, but he would fight back nicely, taking advantage of a bit of a moment there for Riley Cranham at the final turn. Riley was so concerned with defending from Lewis Goff that he forgot all about Sebastian Lusch, who simply drove past the pair of them as they banged doors past the pits. Lewis Goff lifted out of the throttle to get himself out of potentially a dangerous position, almost a repeat of what happened to him in yesterday's first race. There was a big spin for Louis Ratcliffe, or a half spin anyway, coming out of the bomb hole. He saved it, but went brass tracking to the infield and lost a lot of ground. The R-Racing cars did not wait until the final lap to battle this time. Lewis Goff wanted a podium and nipped up the inside of Riley Cranham with a nice move at the Wilson hairpin. He then started applying the pressure to another of his teammates, Sebastian Lusch, in front of him. Ethan Brass had a spin at the right-hander at Coram, lucky not to be collected by anybody else, and thankfully he was able to continue without the need of outside assistance. Some great midfield battles, but at the front of the pack, Melvin Kaluzdian became only the second driver to do the hat-trick this year, as R-Racing netted a first ever 1st to 6th position lockout.